let's change gears and continue now in our Meet the Big 12 series. We've been bringing in guests from our future Big 12 opponents, and we welcome now Jamie Steyer Johnson, radio analyst, Cyclones women's basketball, covers Iowa State, part of the Cyclone Family Podcast. Thanks for being with us on Suns Live.
Yeah, hey guys, thanks so much for having me.
We had Chris Vanini on right now from The Athletic talking about all of the changes in the college sports landscape. How's it playing in Iowa, these changes and what's going on with the Big 12 and the inclusion of UCF and some others in the future Big 12?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly interesting because there's certainly been times where Iowa State has kind of felt like they're on the outside looking in. And so to have some new teams coming in and feel good about that maybe I should say was a good place to be at. And so now you still have kind of more craziness going on with people moving into the Big Ten, stuff like that. But I certainly know a lot of people are really excited about these new additions to the Big 12. I mean, especially UCF. It's just kind of fun to expand your range, the places that you're going to play, kind of enter into a new market a little bit. And so I personally am super excited about it. I'm always happy for more teams, more people to watch. And I know that Cyclone fans are super excited. They're really quite a welcoming bunch. And so just the potential to have new blood and to have more people that you're like, hey, a whole big group of people that it could be their first time in Ames. Like truly, that's the way that Iowa State fans thrive. So it's really exciting.
Jimmy, what is the perception of UCF out there in Iowa? Obviously, we haven't played each other a ton in a lot of sports throughout our history, so there's not a lot of commonality there. What's the I guess the feeling about UCF? What do folks think about UCF? What do they know about UCF?
Not a lot, like you said, like not a lot of playing, not a lot of history between the two, especially in major sports. So it's kind of one of those things where you're learning, okay, what are we going to have to figure out here? Like, what do we have to watch out for? You know, what sports are we really going to be looking at? Some really competitive rivalries, maybe. I will say that it is certainly an interesting spot to be in, just to say, okay, you know, we've got these 4 teams coming in, but there's this one that's kind of out there. Like, it's definitely more of a distance. And so probably the least familiar of any of the new 4. But I know for me, like, obviously with what I do, I certainly follow women's basketball really closely. So ecstatic about the addition of a program like UCF. Have really loved watching them. And then, you know that it's someone who you're going to be competitive in a lot of sports. So not a lot of like specifics, but definitely you start Googling, you're like, oh my gosh, okay, how concerned do we have to be? You know, it's certainly not anyone that you're going to look at the schedule and say, these are a lot of easy wins, which, I mean, you don't really want those anyway, right? Good competition's better.
Yeah. So I started Googling myself. I started looking up what there was in Ames, Iowa. Can you tell us, and you just said how welcoming you guys are, if we took a trip up there for a game, what is on the itinerary? Do we have enough to fill up 2-3 days?
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing the comments coming in. Hey, I'm happy that you're excited to get to Ames. It's really interesting. It's like I said, yeah, super welcoming, but there's some food, you know, it's more of an experience. I don't know how many days you're going to fill. Like, your tailgating experience on game day is going to be amazing. Iowa State has great tailgating. We have a lot of very large lots right around the stadium. And so, you know, you're walking around and people are offering you a beer. Like, if you're there for the first time that UCF comes to town and you're wearing UCF gear, it's going to be much more on the friendly side as opposed to the contentious side. So that's super fun. And then, yeah, food in Iowa, you're sold. Absolutely. You know, you can get some real good corn depending on the time of year. You can definitely get, surprisingly, once in a while you can find like a good barbecue spot. There's one pretty close to Ames called What You Smokin', and they have great barbecue, but the key is that it's really good local meat. So that's certainly a positive. A lot of people talk about Hickory Park. That's a really popular barbecue place in Ames. Frankly, it doesn't hold a candle to What You Smokin'. It's It's better for the Sundays, if I'm being honest, as opposed to the barbecue. It's where I went growing up for like birthday dinners and stuff, but I haven't been in probably 10 years. It's been a long time. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, there's some things to do around campus. The campus is really pretty. It's nice to be able to kind of get a look around there. There's some really nice botanical gardens actually right by the football stadium. So it's enough to maybe fill like your extra day if you come out for a game, but I wouldn't plan on making like a really long weekend out of it. If like, I love Ames, but not like a major vacation destination.
It is not like Orlando where the world comes to play, apparently.
No.
What's the craft beer scene like? Do you know anything about that?
Good. Yeah. So I actually live outside Des Moines. So I'm about an hour away. Des Moines is about 45 minutes away from Ames. And there's a bunch of really, really great breweries in Des Moines. But even in Ames, there's a couple. There's a place called Torrent is really, really great. There's a winery outside of town. There's another brewery outside of town. So yeah, there's actually several. Iowa has, I think, really gotten into it. Where hasn't gotten into kind of the craft beer scene, I think, but in Iowa, what else is there really to do but sit around and maybe get a good drink or two? So it's really, really flourished. There's a lot of really good ones, and there's a wide range. They've always got something kind of different brewing at these places. So I'm a big fan.
What are you expecting from this football program this coming season?
It's really hard to say, honestly, because the expectations are kind of right in the middle. There's been some really, really high expectations in past years. There's been some very low expectations for a very long time. And so to be back kind of at a midpoint it's kind of a weird spot to be in. And I don't know. For me personally, I think that there's a lot of unknowns as far as this team goes. There's some really great knowns. You've got some people coming back that have played really great football, that have played really big parts of the team. But obviously, some of your biggest producers in Brock Purdy, in Breece Hall, in, Charlie Kohler, Mike Rowe, like all of them are gone. And so you have just this kind of in between. And, a lot of people project Iowa State to go about 6-6. That feels about right. And so you have the opportunity to really overachieve, of course, but you also have the ability to really underachieve. And so I think sticking at about the average, at about the expected would be good, because last year, certainly a lot of people felt like you underperformed. And so to kind of get back to a midpoint, to feel like, okay, we lost some of the best players that we've ever had in Iowa State history, and to come back and say, yeah, we're staying at about 50%. If we can make a bowl game, I feel like that would be great, because you're building on it with more incredible recruiting classes and getting a little bit more maturity behind some of those key roles.
Jamie, I also hit the Google button and looked up traditions at Iowa State. So here's some that I found. You can tell me if I'm missing any, if these are good ones. The running of the steps, I guess, for the students when the student section opens up, and there's some sort of a tornado siren. Can you clue us in on those traditions? Anything else that we missed or we need to know about?
Yeah, they're super fun. So when they let the students in, obviously it's kind of a mad dash. It's not ticketed seating. So certainly a little bit of a rush there, which, students are all for kind of having a little bit of competition there, of course. But the tornado siren is really cool. It's something they've been doing for quite a while now. They do it to start out the football games, and they have they did a whole graphic for it. They have it start going off. It's actually a little bit disconcerting when it's stormy out, which has happened several times. But you get a whole message of, this is a cyclone weather alert. Fans of whatever opponent are encouraged to take cover, blah, blah, blah. So they've really leaned into the nickname and really making something of it. So it's really a cool one. And then as far as other traditions go, I mean, for basketball, they have kind of a hand crank siren that they do, because I guess they decided that blowing people's eardrums out with a full tornado siren indoors was not the best choice that they would have ever made, but it's cool. And then, I mean, you've got stuff like the band is really, really talented. They have a bunch of kind of coordinated stuff that they do, which, I mean, what band doesn't? But it's certainly a place where the students like to get involved. The community likes to get involved.
Well, just judging by you, I can tell all Iowa State fans are very pleasant and nice, and we're going to get along with you guys fine. But what's the team in this conference that we're not going to get along with? Who are the big troublemakers that we have to watch out for?
Oh, that's tough. That's really tough. Obviously, we like to try to get along with everyone, but apparently I miss out on stuff because all I've seen on Twitter for the past couple weeks has been apparently all this contention between Iowa State and K-State fans, which obviously I know there's some rivalry there, Farmageddon, all that. There's been a lot of discussion that there should be an actual tractor as the kind of trophy for the Iowa State K-State game. So maybe you guys can kind of get on and help us push that. But they've been kind of harsh, and Iowa State fans have been kind of harsh back. So K-State's been kind of with us, but Todd, that's not a bad point. Kansas is an interesting school to be sure, because you have on one hand incredible historic basketball success, and on the other hand you have football. And there's some people that I think don't know how to deal with going from one to the other. Our dear friend on the 1012, one of my co-hosts, Andy Mitz, is a great Kansas fan. I adore him. But there's a lot that seem to have really high hopes all the time for everything and take it personally if maybe you point out that it might not be the most realistic to say that you're going to I don't know, go undefeated in football every year or something like that. So there's certainly one that I could see button heads a little bit.
Let's end with this. What are the other sports that UCF fans should be paying attention to that Iowa State excels in, competitive in, might win championships in?
Yeah, I mean, Iowa State track and field and cross country are amazing. They're probably the sports that Iowa State is the most nationally competitive in. We've had some really incredible runners. Certainly an interesting sport to watch and follow. I'm maybe not clued in enough to really get the nuance of it beyond the fact that I know that they're really, really good. So they're fun. And then as far as competitive this year, Iowa State men's basketball is bringing in one of the best classes in school history after a historic turnaround last year, going from winning 2 teams to going on 2 games the year before to going on a deep run into the NCAA tournament. And then obviously my personal interest is with women's basketball, and they're looking to potentially have one of the best teams in school history. Almost everyone is back from last year's Sweet 16 run, and a couple of really, really major additions. Iowa State women's basketball has always had a little bit of a rough point recently in the post, and we've got a good 6-6 additions. So all those, super, super fun. And then the ones that are, most nationally competitive would be track cross country.
Jamie Steyer Johnson helping us learn a little bit more about Iowa State in our Meet the Big 12 series. Thanks so much for joining us on Suns Live.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. So great to meet you, and I'm sure we'll see each other soon.
Thank you much.
Thank you, Jamie.